Hi, I'm Chloe Kerwin, a senior at Pattonville High School in St. Louis, Missouri. Today I'm going to be presenting a video on the lack of minority teachers in America and if schools should be required to hire diverse staff. For background information, Pattonville High School is ranked as the most diverse school in all of Missouri. However, we have around 6 minority teachers. I asked both our student and teacher population how a diverse staff would impact Pattonville. First, I'm going to talk about why I chose this topic. So, I chose this topic because of two personal experiences that I had while going to school in the Pattonville School District. Both deal with ignorance and microaggressions. In 6th grade, one of my peers was being very loud and I asked him to be quiet. He then told me to shut up and go back to Africa. As a child, I said, "Then you go back to Europe because none of us are from here." He then looked at me like I said something ridiculous, and I looked at my music teacher thinking she would maybe send him to the principal's office for saying something that was racially motivated in a negative manner. And she told me that I was being disruptive and she would send me to the principal's office if I didn't quiet down. Another experience I had was in my 8th grade English class. I was the only black student in that class, and my teacher was white, and we were reading a book that had the N-word in it. She read the N-word out loud and continued to do it until I had to ask her to meet me outside of the classroom in order to tell her how it made me extremely uncomfortable and how I thought it was inappropriate that she was using that word. Luckily, she took the time to understand where I was coming from and stopped saying it. But I think that if she were to have coworkers of color, that maybe her ignorance wouldn't have been so damaging or inappropriate to me as a student of color. I believe that schools should not be required to hire diverse staff, but in the sense that a quota would be filled, such as, oh, you need this many percentage of teachers of color, because I think that is offensive to teachers of color saying, okay, we're going to hire you because of your racial background, not because of your ability to handle this job or your achievements. However, I do believe that schools should be required to implement a program that proves the district is actively pursuing candidates of color. Now, I'm not sure how this program would work, but I think there are different avenues that we could take, such as actively going to schools that are diverse and seeking out candidates of color and seeing their backgrounds and achievements and seeing if they would be a good fit for Pattonville, not just because of their racial background, but because of their experience regarding teaching, because our staff is very intelligent and they have gone through many programs that have made them very successful teachers here at Pattonville. And I think that maybe if we expand our horizons and look at teachers that aren't just from Missouri and didn't just graduate from the Midwest, that maybe we would have a more diverse population of staff. When reading about the Brown versus Board of Education case, it really brought to my attention why our school is set up the way it is. Due to the desegregation of schools, black teachers were unemployed and black students, as well as other minority students, were forced into all-white schools. It has created a systematic pattern that needs to change because schools have been set up for the success of white students. These changes will not only impact students of color, but all students regardless of race, because bringing in teachers with different backgrounds allows for a wider range of perspectives that teaches information in a new way and can make it more stimulating. This change will not only create change for students now, but for future generations who have their education brought up in a system where there is equal opportunity and representation for everyone. For this project, I surveyed students of Pattonville High School and interviewed Mrs. DeLong, who is a teacher in our foreign language department. She teaches Spanish 1 and Spanish for native speakers. She went to Notre Dame High School and St. Cecilia Academy. I asked her what ethnicity and race she identifies with. Her ethnicity is Hispanic and Latino, and her race is white race, which means she appears to be white-skinned. Did you grow up speaking another language? No, she did not. While studying in college, did you have peers who were also minority? Her major was secondary education, and she had 2 minority peers who were consistently in the same program that she was. I asked, do you think teachers' racial or cultural backgrounds affect students? And she said, absolutely. It's one of the reasons I started the Spanish speakers course. It could be helpful to have someone who looks like you in a positive role. In my course, we talk about representation of Latinos in media, specifically what kind of Latinos are represented, which are mostly white race Latinos. We try to make it more than let's get better at Spanish. Do you think your lack of minority coworkers has affected your relationships amongst each other? She said that they have excellent relationships with each other. Within her department, it's all about teaching about different cultures and promoting education about those cultures. They see all the students and their backgrounds. In her department, she hasn't felt any negative connotations about their students or herself. When you were a student, did you ever experience teachers being ignorant to a student's background? And she said that all teachers were white dealing with social justice, and they were trying to teach about social justice issues, but they may not have gotten the full picture because of their lack of coworkers of color or their own lack of experience with people of color in general. And then I asked, if you had more teachers of color as a student, how do you think it would have impacted you? And she said it would have been nice to see the success of a person of color. Media and shows often portray minority groups in a negative way. Troubled teen or pregnant teen, not about the ones working their butts off to graduate. It helps to have that representation. I was the first to have a college degree and using it for a career. You can do it. Having support helps greatly. I didn't know a lot about my own culture, and having teachers of color brings more perspectives and helps control biases while teaching. It's important to hear everybody's story. Different backgrounds brings more stories. And I asked, do you think schools should be required to hire diverse staff? Not in the sense of a quota, but rather implementing a program that shows they are actively hiring candidates of color. Yes, it would affect it in a very positive way. We are the most diverse district in Missouri. Having a diverse staff helps support the diverse students. When I talked with Mrs. DeLong, I saw how passionate she was about spreading the positives of one's culture throughout our courses here, and it really made me excited to see someone so passionate about it, because it's rare to see. Like, for example, in my English class in 8th grade, we were learning about Black history, but it wasn't excitable, stimulating, or different than anything we've learned before, because it was always about slavery and never really about the success of Black people. I think that with more teachers like Mrs. DeLong, not just her racial background, but her perspectives on how a diverse staff would help Pattonville would be extremely helpful to recreating the education system and making it more inclusive and a more stimulating learning experience. I already know that part. This is Charlotte Taylor, one of my classmates and best friends, and she's going to be my in-person interview for my project. What races do you identify?
Asian and white.
What grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
Do you speak another language?
No.
How many minority race teachers have you had throughout your school career?
I think 2 or 3.
How many minority race principals have you had throughout your school career?
I also think maybe 2.
And how many minority race counselors have you had?
1.
Have you ever felt your voice wasn't being understood or heard properly because of your teacher's racial background?
In some ways, yes, but also no.
Could you explain how it has affected you in some way?
When I was growing up, like being half Asian, half white, didn't grow up with all Asian stuff, but was treated like an Asian person. And I don't know, I mean, counselors that didn't really understand that. So like, I guess I'm that way. But other than that, I mean, not like in any like emotional attachment. I don't know what the word is.
Mm-hmm. How would a diverse staff impact your educational experience?
I think it would just make it more like broad, you know, learning from different ways, because obviously they learned it a different way from different people. What's the word? Like
Perspectives?
Yes, different perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Do you think schools should be required to have a program that actively pursues candidates of color? And let me explain this. So it would be like, because you know how most teachers here are like from Missouri themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like going to schools outside of the Midwest and like schools that are known for being diverse.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it wasn't like if it was based off their credentials, obviously, but I mean, other than that, I don't think they should be actively pursuing for race or for whatever, but if, you know, they're qualified and we need someone, that would be cool, especially to get, again, like an outside perspective from the Midwest. But yeah, for people that go to different schools, because a lot of our teachers went to like the same colleges and had the same education and stuff.
Yeah.
In watching this video, I hope that you not only learned something, but realize the importance of diversity amongst staff. Together, we can create change. Thank you for watching the video.